You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
I love that you just said, Faisal, it's like a question all of the coaches watching should be asking, which is like, how long am I in this game for?
Yes.
Like, is this a 6-month thing? Is this a year thing? Or is this a decade thing? Right? And that changes how you show up, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely does. I very much think about it. The more that I'm in this, I think about it like my real estate investing, that if I go, there are some investments that are intended to be short term, and that's fine. But you go into those understanding it's a short turnaround. Your ROI is it's got to be quick, and you're going to get your capital back, and you're going to be able to do, whatever. But most of my investing is long term, and it has served us well so far, and it's going to continue to serve us well. So why would I think about being a coach and building that business as any different? I mean, I think there are some differences, which we don't need to deep dive into, but I think the overall mindset of if this is something worth doing, then it's going to take a while to build traction. It's going to take a while, and it's worth my energy. If I'm going to be in this long term, this is a long-term investment of my time and energy and my money, then I need to use that lens on how I evaluate what I'm doing. And that, for me, the more that I realize that frame and focus on that, it makes all the difference. And I see Daniel laughing.
Oh my gosh, Sherry. Like, I'm starting to think about like long-term commitment. If you talk about like relationships, I'm thinking of like real estate investments that I've done. And like when I bought my first house, I bought it thinking like, oh, I'm just going to buy this house and it's going to make me money. I'm just going to like make it work. But like 10 years later, like the disasters that I created in my life because I wasn't truly committed to managing an investment sophisticated. Like I was just like, oh, this will happen in the background, and I won't have to spend any time on it. It'll be so easy. Oh my gosh, with tenants and repairs and like getting like they took me to the housing board for something that my property manager did, and getting money stolen from me. Like there's so many like things that happened that I just wasn't committed enough to like prevent those things, because I not only didn't know what to do, but I didn't know how much time I should be putting into this, and I thought it was gonna be super easy. Just like when I got in relationships, it was like after about a year and a half, things I've never like a year to year and a half. That was the time frame that like I started like I would always have a breakup at some point. It would like not be working for me or for them, and like even if it's for me, it's like it's the reason is I wasn't ready to take it to the next level of what is necessary to get what I wanted out of the thing that I quote committed to. Right? It's like that real estate investment that I made. That house, man, I was so happy. I was so happy the day I bought it, but not happy because I was committed. I was so happy the day I sold it because I knew what it meant to be committed to an investment now.
It's like, well, and it's a
so it's the same thing.
It's a mismatch between your expectations on what the vehicle is intended to do and what you need to do to it. And I think that is absolutely applicable in our coaching business. What are our expectations? I came into as a coach, I had an expectation that, okay, this is going to be pretty easy. Like I'm a psychologist. I've been working with clients for over a decade already before I even went into the coaching world. And I grew a business. I did all these things. So I'm like, of course this will be easy. And then it wasn't.
How hard can it be?
Because there are some very significant differences, but largely around my need to, or the necessity of me going out there and creating clients rather than them just coming to me. Like that just didn't happen. And so for all of these many, many reasons, this wasn't a passive investment like I thought. Like in the language of real estate, this is a very inactive investment of my time and energy and all of that. And so when I realized that, and as I'm realizing how much energy and time to create the thing I want, that's necessary in order for that to happen. What are your thoughts, Faisal?
Yeah, I want to also, and I love everything that's being shared. I want to make it specific to action. So I have a client right now, speaking of real estate investors, he's actually considering going into the coaching world. He's been asking me a lot of questions around what I would do. And he's actually already thinking about it. Like, I want to join your coaching community and this and that. I'm like, I actually got him to pause it. I got him to think about his long term, that this is not going to be a 1 day, 2 day thing or a few months thing. I laid out exactly what he needed to do. And I've had a couple of sessions with him to help him kind of come up with a plan if he wants to do it. And I still haven't scared him off because I can tell he's committed. So I'm also testing him in the process. Are you really in? I'm putting everything in front of him to see is it like whether or not is he scared of the work? Is he scared of this? It's like he's not. Like he's open in terms of investing his money. I'm like, you're gonna have to invest anywhere from 16 to 20K just to get yourself started, and then you're gonna have to dedicate about 10 to 15 hours of your time. That's a huge thing. He's a real estate investor. He has a couple of businesses. He has so much going on. I'm like, you're going to have to dedicate that time week after week to be able to do this and learn the process. And he can be a really good coach. I can tell that. But like your potential is different from the time that you put in to actually reach out to people, work with people, connect with people, go take them through the process, get feedback. That is a very different process. And as I'm walking him through it, and I'm helping him realize that you need to actually commit to this. So there are a few commitments in there. One commitment is the investment in business. The other commitment is understanding that this will take work. And I love that quote from Brendan Burchard is like, when you knock on the door of opportunity, don't be surprised that work answers. It takes work. It takes work. It takes about 10 to 15 hours of doing the right work, not all sorts of work. Now, there are a lot of coaches who will do a lot of stuff, but the things that they do don't translate towards clients. So 10 to 15 hours of work, which means that a big part of that is dedicated towards outreach, connecting with clients, and actually get them on calls, filling up your calendar and making offers. And then a small portion of that is dedicated towards putting yourself out there, your visibility. And the rest of the time is you're getting feedback for your process, you're connecting with other coaches, understanding how they're doing things differently. And if you don't have those things as a coach and you're kind of in your own little bubble and you're saying that I'm going to figure this out, you will probably 4 years down the road. Maybe that's probably the average, 3-4 years down the road. Versus you could accelerate your path much faster if you were part of an ecosystem that would give you feedback on your coaching process, your services, that the quality for which is going to be really high for people to exchange money for it, but also for you to understand what are the right actions, because you have a limited amount of time. Most coaches that I know, they're not all their time is in there. They have part of their time, they either have a job or they are doing this part-time, or even if they're doing this full-time, they don't have unlimited amount of time. They have 10, 15, 20 hours, something like that, to dedicate to this. And there are rare coaches who work full-time to this, and I do that. But if you're not dedicating that time figuring out what are the right action steps, and you can't look back in your week, in your month, and say, you know what, I actually made consistent effort and I analyzed the data and I got feedback and I moved forward. If you're not doing that and you're just posting a bunch of content or fixing your website or trying to build some random funnel or going into marketing classes or some other thing that you're learning, or the next conference or the next conference or the next class, hoping that somebody will say the right thing and this will stick to you. And if you're a coach listening to this, this is probably like, you need the right action steps consistently over the long period of time. So that's why we're talking about long-term commitment. But initially, if you're doing this if you're starting this out or you're in the beginning stages, you need to dedicate that time. And if you haven't invested in your business, you need to do that. And we're one of the communities that you can invest in. And if you haven't booked a call with us, definitely look for the link here and join our community. We have so much that we're offering coaches, and we all wish that we had a community like this in the beginning, because all of us struggled in the first couple of years because we did not have that feedback process. We were focused on so many weird things that had nothing to do with building the business and connecting with clients, and we struggled because we never had a feedback process.
Yeah, Shivazal, you make me think about. Can I just share what came to me as you said that? Because I realized the way that I was making quote commitments in my life, I would start out with potential and decision. I thought that was what commitment was. I could do this thing. It could make this money. It could do this benefit in my life. And I need to make a choice. I'm going to start dating it or whatever that choice is. But what I didn't factor in was the more important stuff is, what does that commitment look like? Commitment actually is not just this. It's also the time, long-term commitment that you're making to this thing, or whatever the right appropriate level of time. The work that you have to put in the consistency you're going to need over that long period of time, the support that you need to plan for and get, and the actions that you're taking, make sure, as Faisal said, they're relevant. And like without any of these ingredients, that's not a real commitment. That's just a potential and a decision. That's like what you feel in the moment. You go to an event and you buy a thing, then you got like the first part of commitment. You have the C, the capital C. You need the omitment. Or that's what you're doing. You're just doing omitment. If you don't do this part, it's just omitting. You're just omitting the things that are part of commitment. Like you need to include them. Like without this, is there really evidence of commitment? So I'd ask everybody watching, how much did you plan for these things when you made the choice to become a coach? And it's not too late. You can still do that. You can still think about how much time, how much work, how much consistency are you going to demonstrate? What action are you going to take, and what support? This is somewhere where we can really help you in our community. This is like the element that was always missing in a lot of the decisions I made. And I can see I wasn't really committed because I didn't. If you're really committed, you'd be planning ahead for these things. And then once you made the decision, you'd be actively making sure these happen every day. You'd be tracking it somehow. You'd be working towards support.
I love this, and those who are watching it on video, but if you're not, the support, the action, consistency, and those are like time support, like we lay it out for our clients there, and we help them. On one, we keep them accountable. We're letting them know, hey, you need to do actually the work on our live calls. We're keeping them accountable in our WhatsApp groups. They understand what the right actions to do are. I can't tell you how many coaches come in, like, well, I've been trying all this stuff for so long, for 2 years, 3 years. And then as soon as they come in, they get focused on the right actions. They're not increasing the number of hours, because you can spend 20 hours on completely irrelevant things every week to do, but it's not moving your business forward. But as soon as you get focused on the right actions, and they're usually uncomfortable, you need support structure for that. You feel discouraged when you do stuff like that, such as prospecting and reaching out to people and or launching something that you're doing like a webinar, and you're not getting the right data, how to make sense of it. If you don't have that, you will get overwhelmed. You go in your head. Right before this, I had a call with an investor who was doing capital raising, and I asked him he was about to give up on a deal that he was going to lose like close to 80K, 70, 80K. And I asked him, like, well, can you tell me a little bit about this deal? And my expertise is not real estate investing, but I understand how these things work. And I've talked to enough investors to understand what's happening. And I just asked him just a few questions, like, what did you do? He was talking to a lot of people around it. He had no system whatsoever. He's like, I'm like, how many times have you followed up with these investors? Like, you know what? I started reaching out to them, but I get overwhelmed because there's so many people. I'm like, where's your system? Doesn't have any kind of CRM system. He doesn't have any kind of outreach. I'm like, were you keeping up with your investor base before? He's like, no, I just started reaching out to them. Like, have you connected with some people that give you feedback on this deal and how to approach it differently? No, like key areas. And I asked him, like, is this a long-term thing for you or a short-term thing for you? And when he's at long-term, like, so what would you need to do to look at it like that? How would you approach it if you looked at it? And he started laying it out himself. He's like, I need to find a mentor who will help me in this area. I need to go find the right system that's going to help me with this. I need to go get feedback from some peers that would give me feedback on a deal like this and not get in my own head. The same process. And he was excited about it. He's like, okay, I didn't think about this for the whole year.
I love that. So some of you, to kind of wrap up our conversation today, some of you are at the beginning of your coaching journey and you haven't put the pedal to the metal, like in a car. You haven't put the gas all the way down and fully committed on what you're doing, and you're struggling to get movement and momentum. Some of you, though, have put a ton of all of these things in, but you're finding your commitment is waning because you don't have all of the rest of the things in place. And if you are not seeing the results of your efforts, that is going to impact your level of commitment over time. And sometimes you're doing the wrong things. And as Faisal said, that's what we see a lot is people are doing the wrong things. And so if you've been in for a while, you've had some clients and you've had some successes, but you're like, what the heck is happening? Why am I not growing like I thought I was going to be? If you stay in that space, your commitment is decreasing. And that is where the Coaching Mastery community can come in and support you with helping you understand the right things to be doing the right systems to be building and to reinforce the structure and support that you're wanting to build. So that's another way to think about your commitment. You may feel emotionally committed right now, but it's gonna go down if you're not seeing the results at some point. So we would love to be able to support you in getting those results, making sure that the energy and action is put in the right place.
Sherry, I want to clarify like something that you said, but didn't actively explicitly say. When you have a commitment, you're also committed to maintaining that commitment. So you need to invest in things that sustain your commitment, right? The reinforcement that Sherry's talking about, it's like that commitment. It's not only just about having the commitment at the beginning, it's about feeding that commitment and growing that commitment like a plant. You can't.
You mean like a date night and going to marital counseling?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That like your commitment needs to be sustained. And how do you sustain it? You get the things that we talked about, like that reinforcement, that support and community. Like those are like, otherwise your commitment will decrease. I love that, Sherry. That's a really good point.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.